Good afternoon. My name is Mike. My topic is a strategic approach for visualizing the value of big data. My supervisors are Dr. Alan Serrano and Professor Mike Lysett. Let me tell you a quick story. A man rushes into a large retail store in America, and he's really, really angry, shouting out for the manager. And the manager comes to him and he asks him, what's the problem? And he says, why is the store sending coupons to his 17-year-old daughter for products, pregnancy products? And he was really angry that they're trying to encourage his 17-year-old daughter to get pregnant. And he apologized. They apologized to him and they took the daughter off the mailing list. Now, 2 days later, the manager calls the man back just to apologize one more time, just to say they're sorry. And then the father then tells the manager, well, I'm sorry, I think I should apologize to you. Turns out that my daughter is actually pregnant. Now, the shopping algorithm the shop had kind of looks at shopping patterns, customer shopping patterns, and was able to predict that the daughter, looking at her change shopping pattern, started buying things like odorless roll-ons and a few multivitamins and a few other things, could predict that she's probably within her first trimester. And it was correct. Now, it was able to tell that the girl was pregnant and the father, unfortunate father, didn't know his daughter was pregnant. Where am I going with this? In the past, IT used to play a functional role to support organizations' business strategy. People used to more or less use IT like a typewriter, and that was it. But now, IT has evolved digitally with processes, products, and services all interwoven. This brings me to the concept of digital business strategy. It's a fusion of IT strategy and business strategy. There's quite a lot of literature about DBS, digital business strategy, from Henderson and Vectorman, Matthias, and quite a lot more. Benya and McKelvey actually talk about alignment from a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, actually suggested a framework regarding that. The aim of my research is to strategically develop an approach for visualizing the value of big data. I'll just paint a picture, a picture of a problem. Big data is like a buzzword now, both in academia and in industry. It's like this giant elephant and everybody's trying to pull it from one side. Everybody knows, okay, here it's good, it's this company has done it. You get left out if you don't get into it. And everybody's just jumping into it, not having a proper direction, proper focus on how to go about it. Now, I'm looking at saying, you need to take a step back first. First start to visualize its value before you can actually begin to see how appropriately you should actually step into it. Now, using design science methodology, design science allows me to actually develop an artifact, a model, and actually go about it iteratively, starting from the problem awareness, the suggestions, then development, evaluation of the problem, and then conclusion. You can actually build, then evaluate, build, and evaluate. Now, my iteration one actually starts with that, focuses on proposing my framework. And I had to first actually do some systematic literature review. So actually even see what kind of models are out there, what kind of processes do people actually follow to actually implement big data. And I kind of found two very interesting models by Hang et al. And Dutta and Boss. The Hang et al. Model actually was applied in the health sciences, and the Dutta and Boss was applied in the manufacturing sector. Now, if you look at both models, they actually kind of do the same thing, but the Hang et al. Actually focuses more on a high level. Starts from the formulation of the question, to data collection, data storage, then data analysis, reports, then evaluating to see whether the problem you started with has been answered. If it's not been answered, then you start the process again, redefining the question. And then The data and bus actually takes it again from defining the business problem, the problem of they're trying to actually address. And they try and break it down to a little more details, looking at doing some research around that area, the cross-sectional team formation, the project roadmap, data collection, and then analysis and modeling, then data visualization, insight generation, integrating with the IT system, and then training people. It goes down in circles. They actually look at big data from its volume, its velocity, and its variety. The hackathon, which actually even looks more like giving management a perspective to understand how big data is actually implemented, add the fourth dimension, which is value. So they say it's the velocity, the value, the kind of data generated, structured, unstructured, all of that. Now, my argument here is, and what I propose is, for you to actually go into a big data project, there's a need to establish an alignment between the business strategy of the organization and the big data project. My proposed framework is grounded on the core evolutionary IS alignment framework by Benya and McKelvey. Now, the Benya and McKelvey alignment framework actually looks at from three dimensions: the individual dimension, the operational dimension, and the strategic level. This is quite interesting because my framework actually also starts from the strategic vision down to the implementation roadmap for the big data, then generation of your big data goals, then determining your data sources, and before the big data implementation plan. To the left, we have the Benya and McKelvey framework, and to the right, we have my proposed framework. Now, I take from the strategic level and the operational level, because when you're talking about strategy, you don't get down to the everyday users. It's more like the decision makers. That's those groups of people that I'm kind of interested in. Now, breaking it down, we now start to look at the dimensions of the IS alignment framework. They propose here you have like the alignment of the IS strategy with the business strategy, looking at components like the IS strategy, business strategy, and strategic planning. Mine starts with the strategic vision of the organization. Key task there will be things like to interview the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, the data custodians. You select area of analysis because you have to actually focus the entire study, the research, and what problems are you actually seeking to actually define. You have to have a clear understanding of that. So deliverables at that stage will be areas of analysis and a clear list of management stakeholders lists. Now, the second phase would be the implementation roadmap, where I kind of go around to check what kind of existing methodologies out there for actually implementing the big data, like the two I showed earlier on. Also, you would have a tailored report. This report will be presented to the organization, obviously. You would have a model, I call it my version 1. You would also have a stakeholder list for implementation. It's important to identify at the very beginning the stakeholders that will be involved with the end-to-end implementation of the entire project. So you'd have to have a clear list of all those people. Then, again, this is grounded on the operational dimension of the core visionary IS alignment framework, which talks about alignment between the organizational structure and the IS structure, aligning between actors, communications, degree of involvement with the IS domains. And then the next is the generation of the strategic big data goals. Now, you have to have like focus groups here, map of the strategic questions, because certain perceptions that management might have about a problem might be different from how somebody else sees it. So you have to have like a common ground to carefully define the problem you're seeking to address, and because that's always your starting point. When you have those clearly defined problems, then you know how the entire project is going to actually take its shape. Now, again, that still sits on the operational dimension. Then we go into the determining of the data sources. Now, depending on the problem they are seeking to address, you now have to have specific kinds of data that's you're going to use to actually answer those problems. Is it social media data? Is it data from the electricity company that we saw earlier on? Or is it financial data? What kind of data would I need to answer those problems that you've identified? Now, you're going to have a clear list of your data sources. Also, some data are free and some data have some cost to it. So, and the next stage, which is the final stage of my framework, which is the big data implementation plan, you'd have a version 2 of your implementation model. And the version 2 is now a tailored implementation model that is specifically tailored for that specific organization, that allows you see what data sources you are looking at, the specific problems you are seeking out to address, and yes, and then it also captures costs. You actually have to factor in cost into it to know what kind of cost is the data going to have. Are you going to buy your data? This, in conclusion, the framework, this entire study so far forms my iteration 1 process, like I earlier said. I evaluated the framework with an interview I had with a data scientist. Her background, she's also an academician because she also has a PhD and has years of experience in data science. And she recommended that the framework can now be tested at the case study. I went through all the elements with her, and she tried to apply it because she's actually in the insurance industry. However, the case study, which I'm actually seeking to go test the framework now, is the media industry. Yeah, so my next phase will be the iteration 2, testing the framework in a company in Nigeria. And yes, thank you.